In a shock to absolutely no one, and I mean no one, talks between the Trump administration and Ukraine have been put on hold. And now Trump says that Volodymyr Zelensky must want peace and stop bashing Vladimir Putin, the very Russian president actively invading his country, before he will reconsider. Now, Friday's meeting was expected to be tense. That is no surprise. What was, though, was Zelensky being cornered into handing over parts of his country's mineral wealth with no security guarantees in return. And just days earlier, Trump accused Zelensky, bizarrely, of being a dictator. Yes, the U.S. has been a key ally in this war, but Zelensky was about to sign this deal with a man who has openly praised Vladimir Putin, the same leader bombing Ukraine and killing thousands of Ukrainians. Now, usually these tensions stay behind closed doors when it comes to diplomacy, but Trump wanted them out on full display. Zelensky, known for pushing back, has clashed with Biden and others, but now he's facing a new kind of challenge. Now, take that and enter J.D. Vance. Watch.
What kind of diplomacy, J.D., you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine? Did you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President.
And if you're just passing by the TV or caught that clip, you might think that he has a point, just because of how confidently the vice president seems to be speaking. Vance has straight up admitted he doesn't care about Ukraine. He also has this grudge. It's almost a weird obsession of sorts when it comes to U.S. aid going there. And it's kind of funny because he doesn't have that same energy for Israel or Netanyahu, who has openly defied American presidents in the past while also taking billions of U.S. tax dollars. And he's accusing Zelensky of doing exactly what Russia is doing. Putin has forced hundreds of thousands of Russians into conscription. It's why so many Russians have actually fled that country. And the full extent of Russian losses is hard to grasp. But reports show the Russian troops are being killed at an extremely high rate. In fact, Putin has even turned to North Korea for extra troops on the battlefield. Zelensky was by far the most composed leader in that room. He made it clear that he was trying to set the record straight, something he has to do. And honestly, can you blame him? I mean, the journalists there, or those cosplaying as journalists, were throwing ridiculous questions like this one.
In this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit, just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting the dignity of this office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe something like yours. Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know.
Yeah, Trump sycophant reporters cosplaying as White House journalists are the new norm. And yet no one has ever bothered to ask Elon Musk why he doesn't wear a suit when he's around Trump and in the Oval Office. Now, some commentators are calling this a setup. The White House denies it, but let's be real. Zelensky was stuck in an impossible situation. Trump turned it into a PR stunt, something his allies may call a win for the U.S., but many Americans saw it as a shameful moment. In Ukraine, where Zelensky has a high approval rating, his response earned him respect, but also fear. 3 years into Russia's invasion, thousands of innocent lives have been lost. Now, Trump wants Zelensky to stay silent about Putin, the man causing it all, who's long claimed Ukraine basically has no right to exist. This isn't just a low point for U.S. foreign policy. It shows how little some politicians care about the real suffering in these wars. Ukraine's fate shouldn't be left to Vladimir Putin, a petty man turning it into a reality show like Donald Trump as well. On with me now, Tom Nichols, staff writer for The Atlantic. Also joining us from Ukraine, Simon Schuster, senior correspondent at Time Magazine. Gentlemen, it's great to have both of you with us. Simon, I'll start with you. You've reported on Ukraine and Russia for a while now. I know we have spoken on this program a few times over the past couple of years. We know that this is a fearful moment for Ukrainians, but a lot of them have also a lot of pride in their country and in how the president, Zelensky, carried himself in the Oval Office. Last night on Fox News, he did thank President Trump again. He thanked the American people again. Does it feel like Trump wanted to box Zelensky in? I mean, was there ever a chance that this meeting ended in a positive outcome for Ukrainians?
Yeah, I think that's what all Ukrainians that I know here in Kiev were expecting. This was supposed to be kind of a formality. The terms of the agreement that President Zelensky had gone to the White House to sign had been negotiated over the past couple of weeks. And they were supposed to mark a kind of a new start to the relationship between the Trump administration and President Zelensky. It all went awry, of course. But I think what I've been hearing for sure from the people here, from my sources, from my friends in Kiev, is a really amazing rallying around Zelensky, rallying around their leader. They feel proud of him. They feel that he really stood up to a bully, as they see it. And you know, some people see it as a kind of unity around Zelensky that people here haven't felt perhaps since the early months of the invasion in 2022.
Is there, Simon, is there a sense of what comes next if this relationship has been severed? I mean, we reported the negotiations are now put on hold. It doesn't seem like Donald Trump wants Volodymyr Zelensky back to the White House anytime soon. Is there a sense of anxiety about what comes next among Ukrainians without the backing of the U.S.? We know the Europeans are saying they want to step in and fill that void. It may not be that simple or easy.
That's right. That's obviously the flip side of that feeling of pride and unity here in Kyiv. Especially among military officers. I was actually having dinner with a senior military officer, a Ukrainian colonel, when the news of the White House blow-up started coming in. And, you know, even though he also, you know, expressed support and respect for Zelensky's the stand that he took, he expressed a lot of concern about what this would mean for the Ukrainian military and whether the Ukrainian military would be able to fight on and defend Ukraine against the invasion of the Russians without U.S. military help, without U.S. intelligence sharing, and without the U.S. president on board with this fight.
Tom, you wrote about this in The Atlantic just today. You called this meeting an ambush. You called it one of the grimmest days of American diplomacy. Walk me through that thinking. What were you thinking when you saw this play out? I mean, we know that Trump has obviously aligned himself with Putin, refused to even call him a dictator. Almost surprised when somebody asked him, like, hey, do you still stand by calling Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator? And he said, did I say that? I didn't say that. Did you ever think it would go this far?
I had fears that it would go this far. And like a lot of people, I felt physically sick watching this. I mean, it was an embarrassing spectacle for the American government, a low point for the United States that up until a month ago was the leader of the free world. Look, does Trump hate Zelensky? There was never going to be a smooth relationship here. He hates Zelensky, he hates Ukraine, he blames them for a lot of his problems. He blames them for Vladimir Putin's problems. We saw that in this meeting of, you know, his sympathy for poor Vladimir Putin getting dragged through the mud by the Democrats and their allies in the media. I mean, it really was an incredible scene to watch an American president take the side of a Russian dictator against a free people that have been invaded by the Russian army. And with Vance, who either horned his way into this meeting to disrupt it or was brought in to disrupt it. Either way, it was clearly an intentional ambush. The vice president is part of a group of plutocrats who have come to believe that they are deep geopolitical thinkers and that somehow they have to derail all of this because they are the new wise men who understand transatlantic relations. But of course, as you saw, you know, Vance's grip on all of this is pretty shallow, and he was there mostly to be a troll, to just bait Zelensky and to be kind of a, the 3D version of an internet troll sitting in a meeting that is about serious and existentially important things.
We're seeing these sprays, Tom, and you certainly know Washington a lot better than I do. I mean, these sprays are often just a couple of seconds, maybe at best a few pleasantries, a handshake, and you move on. But it has now become almost a signature hallmark of this administration the first month, with a few different leaders that come in, and they just kind of descend into this chaos, sometimes, as in the case with the French president, having to correct Trump in real time about European contribution to the war in Ukraine. Others, like the King of Jordan, who sat by as Trump talked about Gaza, and he kind of said, well, that's we're going to have to do what's in our interest, and it's not something that requires us to take in millions of Palestinians. These are becoming spectacles, and you got a sense from Trump at the end of his comments yesterday when he said, hey, this is going to make great television.
He loves this. He loves being on TV. He thinks, and this is part of the problem with both Trump and Vance, they don't live in the real world where things really have terrible consequences. For Vance, this is all kind of an intellectual exercise in self-actualization or something. But for Trump, it's a TV show. It's reality TV. He thinks that when he's on TV, he's winning. This, despite all of the evidence from his first term, that when he spends a lot of time in the public eye, people start to get tired of him, and they start to realize that the guy they're watching is not the guy they thought in their head that they were voting for. But you're not going to convince Trump of that. I mean, he basically had to be like grabbed by his staff to stop doing those COVID pressers during the pandemic that would go on for hours. He thought he was doing great.